Okay, well, hello, and thank you everyone for joining us for our second Community Safety Series webinar, Exploring Fraud Prevention and Counterfeit Money. I am Candace Critchlow, the Community Police Manager, and I am part of the Coquitlam RCMP Community Policing Team, and we are excited to bring to you today's presentation. Fraud is our most popularly requested topic, and what better a time than to discuss than during March, because it is Fraud Awareness Month, and anyone can become a target for scams and frauds. So our discussion today will cover a range of audiences in order to bring awareness. We have several experts with us today on our panel. So first off, I'd like to introduce them. We have Farid Salji, who's from our Bank of Canada regional office for British Columbia and the Yukon. We also have Corporal Vin No from the RCMP's Federal Policing Prevention and Engagement Unit, as well as Constable Chris Jones from our local Coquitlam RCMP Economic Crime Unit. So our experts are going to overview their key topics, and then we're going to discuss all of the awesome questions that were submitted by our audience at the end. So to start us off, let's get Farid Salji from Bank of Canada, Regional Office for British Columbia and the Yukon.
Hey guys. All right, let me share my screen here. Start this off. Sorry, it's taking a sec. There we go. So, hey guys, my name is Farid Salji with the Bank of Canada. Just to give you a little background about myself, I've been with the bank approximately 13 years now, but I've been in financial institutions for a good 25 plus years. So today I'm going to really get into currency itself. I'm going to get into the logistics on what's happening throughout the different regions, but I'm going to touch on two specific notes. One is the Viola Desmond, the first vertical note we designed for Canada. And the second one is the Frontier series that's out there right now. I'm going to show you some additional information, and I'll show you two counterfeits that are readily floating within our BC region, specifically to us mainly, but they are across Canada as well. And I'll hopefully be able to answer all the questions that you guys brought up. So to get into it, first is cash itself. A lot of people have the misconception that cash is going away very, very soon. But as you look at this chart, you can see since 2009 to 2019, cash has grown over 69%. Cash grows every single year, roughly with inflation, approximately between 3 to 7%. We have approximately 88 billion in the Canadian economy, roughly about 2.3 billion notes, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down or going away anytime soon. Saying that, because we are a leading central bank, we do look for the future, and one of the future type currencies is basically central bank digital currency. So this is something, as one of the leading financial or central banks in the world, we're looking at the digital currency and what we can do with it in the near future. So this is an avenue that we're looking at, but the physical cash will actually work with the digital cash instead of one or the other being taken away. When it comes to counterfeiting statistics, this is the chart from 2000 to 2019. The blue bars here are notes that were seized prior to getting into circulation, so no one has taken a loss. The purple bars are notes that were in circulation and someone unfortunately has taken it and taken a loss. So you can see 2004 was our peak season. We were looking at approximately 13 million value, roughly 450 parts per million. What that means is for every million genuine million notes in circulation, there's 450 counterfeits. We were one of the highest in the G7 groups at the time. And you can see that dramatic decline since 2019, which we're now at approximately 15 parts per million and roughly about 1.6 million counterfeits in circulation. So we've done a great job with our partners in law enforcement, education, Crown prosecutors, and brought this figure down dramatically. Saying that as well, we do have state-of-the-art features within our banknotes. When it comes to regions and who's getting targeted, unfortunately, every region gets targeted when it comes to counterfeiting. You can see on the 2018 pie chart, the screen area here, 30%, that was BC. So unfortunately, in 2018, we were #1 when it comes to counterfeits across Canada. And then you can see it's followed by Ontario, then Quebec. 2019, it changed a little. Ontario's first, Quebec, and we're in third place. So unfortunately, these individuals move throughout the regions on a regular basis. So always be aware, but to verify a banknote, it takes a second to do it, and I'll show you how. When it comes to what notes are being counterfeited, a lot of people have that misconception that it's only hundreds and fifties that are being counterfeited. Well, actually, all denominations are being counterfeited. They basically don't care as long as they make money. So you can see here, 20s went from 27% to 38, hundreds dropped down. So every year it's a little bit different according to what media is talking about, what law enforcement's doing, what signs are up in the stores saying, hey, maybe we don't accept a $100 note due to counterfeiting, which actually makes you a target to counterfeiting. And I'll explain that. If you put up a sign saying we don't accept 50s and hundreds, well, the Frontier series, which we will go through, has the same security across the board from the 5 to the 100. So when you put up a sign saying, hey, you know what, we don't accept 50s and hundreds due to high level of counterfeiting, these counterfeiters see it as an opportunity. They think that you can't verify a note, they'll take their 5s, 10s, 20s through. So be aware of that. And if you are going to put a sign saying, you know, we don't accept 50s and hundreds, maybe change that up a little bit. Maybe for float purposes, we cannot exchange a 50 and 100, something like that, and then take the smaller noms if that's what you deem to do. When it comes to what series of notes are being counterfeited, well, unfortunately, they still counterfeit even the older series notes, which you probably don't see very often anymore, because the majority of notes out in circulation are the polymer series. So the polymer series is this red bar here. So you can see it's the top priority for counterfeiters. That's the one they're targeting across the board. But the cotton-based series, all of them, from the scenes all the way through the Canadian Journey series, you can see they're still trying to produce those every once in a while. So again, just to give you a gist, for retailers, you have the right to refuse absolutely any form of payment. Does not matter what it is. It could be the polymer series, it could be a Visa, it could be a MasterCard, it doesn't matter. If you want to refuse it, you have that right. You do not need to accept it. Even though bills are considered legal tender, you still do not need to accept it, all right? It's up to you guys to deem it counterfeit or genuine and then move it along. So that's enough statistics. I want to get into the vertical note. This here is the Viola Desmond note, and I do apologize. Normally this presentation is done face-to-face, where I physically hand out notes and I let you guys examine them, and I also show you guys some counterfeits and let you feel them. So this is a little bit of a different trend, unfortunately, but this is the new world we're in at the moment. So this note here is the first vertical note that we've developed and designed for Canada. It is the beginning of the next generation of notes. What I mean by that is, for the people who are aware of it or aren't, we have a new $5 bill coming out with several candidates. We brought it out to basically Canada as a whole and asked, who would you like the next subject portrait to be? And we had over 600 nominations, which we condensed down to the top 8. And now those 8 are being presented to the finance minister to make the last call on it. Saying that, I want to give you a gist on polymer itself. Poly is not really new. Australia had it first over 25 plus years ago. Several other countries actually use polymer, but we're the first to develop state-of-the-art security embedded within it. So whenever we develop a new series for Canada, security is always top priority. So these notes are state-of-the-art. They're one of the best notes in the world when it comes to security. And all notes within this series will be vertical. Polymer itself is actually environmentally friendly, believe it or not, because we can recycle 100% of this bill, break it down, and provide and build different products with it. Also, they are very, very durable. They last 3.5 times longer than the old series notes. So to just give you an understanding, a $100 note in the cotton-based series would last roughly between 7 to 9 years. One of these notes will last 3.5 times longer than that, meaning that some of these bills will produce once and once only. So hopefully in the long run, it should save us some money. So I'm going to get into the security of these bills. Now, if you do have one laying around beside you, go ahead, grab it. If you don't, it's okay, just follow suit with the videos itself. But these notes have tons of different security, both on the front and back. So we'll go through each one. If you guys are interested in the themes of the notes, because these bills, each one of them is really a work of art, and they all represent Canada, like in this case with Viola Desmond on it. There's a lot of information on our website. You can go to bankofcanada.ca and take a look. But when it comes to the security, if you take the bill, you feel it along the Canada at the top right, the shoulders of the portrait, or the large 10 at the bottom, you can feel a raised surface. So that is called intaglio ink. It's just basically a very thick ink that's layered on the surface of the bill. On the back of this bill, it's completely smooth. There is no raised surfaces whatsoever. At the bottom of the bill, we have this hologram. This is the ceiling of the Library of Parliament, but you can see the complexities within the foil itself and how detailed it is in finite colors. Right here, you see the coat of arms. It's a new type of holography as well. It's very finite, very, very finite. But when you shift it, there's a multitude of rainbow colors that pop through, and the coat of arms pops right out. This hologram, you can see it from the front or back of the bill. The clarity, quality, sharpness of color, it's all there. The coat of arms will only be on the front, including the flag there on the left. Now, there is an additional feature right here on the bottom right of the bill. This is a transparent maple leaf. This is what it looks like. It's got the small denoms in it, but it is a tactile feature. What that means is it's an actual indent to the actual note itself. So it can slowly fade with time, but if you rub your finger along that area, you'll feel a raised surface. On the left-hand side of the bill, that first maple leaf, as you can see here in the picture, this is a 3D maple leaf. Basically, when you look at the bill, it looks like it's physically sitting on the surface of the bill. But if you rub your finger along it, it's completely smooth. And you can see that from front or back of the bill. So it looks like it's sitting on the back or sitting on the front. The other one is the feather here on the back of the bill. This is an eagle's feather, but it's also a security feature. When shifted, you'll see it go from a solid gold to a solid green. There's almost like a bolt of lightning that moves up and down this feather when you start shifting it. That feather, you can see it from the front of the bill inside this little window right there, okay, front or back. So that's it for that series of notes. I know I'm going a little quick. I just want to make sure we stay within our timelines, but all this information can be provided to you again. It's absolutely free on our website. You can order materials, send it straight to yourself if you wish. The Frontier series is the next series of notes that I want to talk about, because this one, unfortunately, is being targeted quite a bit right now. And you guys have all seen this series. 5 to the 100, the security across the board is exactly the same. And the themes on the back of the bill is all about Canada. And I won't get into all that because, again, for time restraints. So with the security on these bills, there's a lot of security in it as well. And remember, they are state of the art. So I'll go through this one as well with you guys. So again, this one, if you feel the front of the bill on the shoulders of the portrait, the large denomination, the Bank of Canada in French and English on the side of the large window, those are all that intaglio ink that we talked about. So on the back, again, it's completely smooth, but on the front of the bill, you can feel that raised surface. Now within this one, there's two types of hologram within this window itself. The window should always be crystal clear like glass, should not be frosted, hazy in any which way. If it is frosted or hazy, they might have tampered with the note, or it could be potentially a suspect bill. So please check a few more features. So within this window, there's two types of holograms, which is the pieces here and the bottom one. So the top piece of hologram is always the same portrait as the individual within the bill. This one, when shifted, will go through a dull rainbow of colors. On the bottom of that hologram right there and at the side, you'll see the denomination of the note. Those denominations on a genuine note are transparent. It's a finite type detail, but you can put your finger behind that and you'll see right through it. Where most counterfeits, they can't do that finite, intricate detail. So most of their denominations right here are actually part of their foil, so you wouldn't be able to see through it. The building itself is very different. This one is very sharp, finite colors. Doors, walls, windows, everything color shifts, but it's all sectioned off into certain areas. So the bottom piece is very sharp colors, top piece is very dull colors, two completely different types of holography, where most counterfeiters get one or the other, all sharp or all dull. So make sure you pay attention to that. Just above the building itself, just above the building itself, these small denominations there as well. So in this case, it's a 20, so they're all 20, and the 5, it'll be 5 and so on. But when shifted, those will go through the full color spectrum of the rainbow. Also, right here has 2020, Canada 2020, kind of snakes through the large window. This is also a tactile feature. So again, if you rub your finger in that area, you'll feel a raised surface. But again, because it's an indent to the actual note itself, it can slowly fade with time. Also, these maple leaves here, polymer is an extremely difficult material to print on. So what we've done is we've tied these maple leaves right into the window to add another layer of security to force counterfeiters to take that step back to try to mimic it properly. Now, again, front or back of this bill, it's exactly the same. Clarity, quality, sharpness of color, it's all there. It's just in reverse. So you should be able, whichever direction you get this bill, be able to verify it within a split second, even the vertical note when it comes to the Viola Desmond one. So there is a secondary feature with this. When we design our bills to be verified by hand anytime, anywhere without any mechanical device. Saying that, with technology constantly advancing, we need to add security features that are machine readable and things that you could do yourself. So here you have a window. Within that little maple leaf, you got that circle. Within that circle, there's a hidden number. To see that hidden number, you need a single point light source. So please don't blind yourself and flash the light bulb right into your eye or the flashlight into your eye. You don't need to be looking directly into the light. It just needs to be pointed up in the sky and you can look at the light itself. Within the halo of the light, you're going to see $20, $20. And again, this features on all the notes. So I'll show you what you do. You take the bill, you hold it close to your eye like that, and you look at the light, and that's kind of what you're going to see. This is a video, so it shows it in gray, but in reality, depending on the light source you use, it'll be a multi of different colors. But that's what you'll see in it. The 5s all the way through to the 100 have that hidden number. It's not an ideal feature because it is considered a secondary feature because you need a mechanical device to use it. So you don't have to rely on it as primary. Primary features is what I went through with the window, the holograms, and the foils. All right. Just to give you some of what counterfeiters have been doing throughout the region, this is an altered 5. Basically what they've done is they've taken a $5 foil, they cut it from a genuine bill, and put it on a counterfeit 50. This portion and this portion is fake. The only thing real is this foil right there. But as you can tell, the foil says 5 and it should say 50, right? Now also, if you rub your hand along this area, on a genuine note, there should be no raised surface on either side of this foil. But on a counterfeit, because they tape it together, there's going to be a raised surface on this side of the bill or the back of the bill. There'll be a definite raised feel. And obviously, if it says 5 and it's on a 50, it's fake, 10 on 100, it's fake, and so on. Also, we're getting these notes circulating within our region. Hopefully, you can all tell this is a counterfeit bill with the big writing in the middle there. This is a Chinese training note. We have seen quite a few come through in our borders now. They are on paper. They're not even on a polymer substrate. But what counterfeiters are tending to do is order these in, cut that section off, and use a genuine foil on it. And they're kind of doubling their money. And I won't get into the logistics of it, but that's basically what they're doing. The most discerning feature within these bills is these dotted 5 lines there. This is on the front and back of the bill in all denominations. So if you ever see one with those 5 dashes, regardless on if it's a 5 all the way through to the 100, it's a counterfeit bill. So be aware of that. And obviously, if it's on paper, it shouldn't be, right? It should be on a polymer substrate. So they cut that section out, they cut the window out, they paste the genuines onto it. For some of the additional information, just to give you an understanding of what to do if you're presented with a counterfeit bill. If you ever get a counterfeit bill, please don't accuse the individual because you never know if that individual just got it from somewhere else's change or whichever, but always politely refuse it, ask for a different form of payment, different note, whatever it is. Allow them to know that it's a suspect bill. They should go to the local law enforcement or financial institution to get it verified. At that point, you've done your due diligence for the individual. After that, what you want to do is obviously inform your manager, contact police, and give them that information because unfortunately, these people move throughout the regions. And if they're in your neighborhood, they're targeting one store, they're going to target more than one. So if you guys are calling, police can get on it and get these guys arrested and get them out of there. If you're finding the bill after the fact at the end of the night, just put it in the side, take it over to the bank, let them send it off to the NACB, which is the National Anti-Counterfeiting Bureau, to get it verified. If it's a real bill, you'll get it back. If it's a fake bill, unfortunately, you've lost your money at that point. All right. We have tons of educational material on our website. Like I said before, everything is absolutely free. So if you need anything, you can always go there. They'll send it straight to your store. We have PDFs, we have electronic versions. And if you have any questions, This is my contact information. So I'm out of the BC region. I don't have any issues with anyone calling me or sending me an email, whatever you guys prefer. But if you do have any questions, please don't hesitate. And just one last thing, we do touch on US currency as well. So if you need help with that, we can also assist. But that is the end of my presentation. And I'm going to stop sharing the screen now.
Awesome.
And turn it back to you, Candace.
Thanks, Farid. That was super great and really cool to see all the artwork that goes into the notes and the bills and the different changes that have gone over the years to make them more secure. So I thought that was really a neat thing to see. On a bit of a different topic from counterfeit bills, but still in the business realm, we're going to move to Corporal No, and he's from our RCMP's Federal Policing Prevention and Engagement Unit. So we'll see what kind of information he can bring us today.
Let me share my screen here. All right, I think that works. Welcome to this webinar presentation on spear phishing. Before we proceed, I'd like to first thank Coquitlam RCMP Community Policing for hosting this webinar event. I also like to thank those who are joining us today. My name is Corporal Vin No. I work with the RCMP C Division Federal Policing Prevention Engagement, or we call it FPP. My email is below, and I encourage you to contact me about this or any other prevention initiatives. Oops. Okay, so in terms of what we're going to talk about today, we'll look at the stats from the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center on fraud trends, and we'll see what is spear phishing, and lastly, how to protect yourself to recognize, reject, and report. In developing this presentation, I looked at the following sources: the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center, the CAFC. They're the repository on fraud trends across Canada. People are encouraged to report incidents of fraud to them either by phone or through their website. I also looked at police databases as well as open source information. And Canadian Anti-Fraud Center, just get back on that, they are made up of the RCMP, the OPP, and the Competition Bureau. So before we look at what spear phishing is, let's see if it's actually a problem. For that, I'd like to show some statistics on the next few slides. A caveat on stats though, although these stats are important to identify trends, they do not represent a true picture as common problem of underreporting exists. People may not know about CFC, or maybe they're just too embarrassed to make the report. Whatever the reason, we expect the real numbers to be higher. Here's the CFC's national stats on the top frauds for 2020 by the total number of reports. So if you look at this chart, spear phishing doesn't seem to be a big problem. It was actually in the 10th place, but I slipped it in for the purpose of this presentation. First on the list, obviously, is extortion, and then identity fraud, personal information, phishing, merchandise, and then, spear phishing. Right, so in comparison, if you look at the national top 5 fraud scams by total value loss, a different picture emerges, right? Here we can see that romance scam is actually #1 on the list, while spear phishing is #3 at approximately $14.4 million loss in value. Still is quite significant in my opinion. And again, extortion, which is first on the last slide, is actually #4. Let's look at the national total value loss over time and compare that with spear phishing and versus all the scams. As you can see, the total of all scams have been consistent for the past 3 years at approximately $103 million. On the other hand, we see a dip in 2020 for spear phishing versus 2019 and 2017. Unfortunately, I don't have the specifics on the makeup of the victims of the spear phishing scams. That is, what percentage are big businesses versus small businesses, or if they are organizations or institutions. I just don't have those facts. So now you know what spear phishing is, and now you know that it's a problem. Let's look at what it is. It's certainly not spear phishing like what this man is doing, although it makes an excellent metaphor in my opinion. Spear phishing is also known as whaling, vishing, which is voice phishing, and payment redirect. Of course, payment redirect scam is not new. The scheme goes back many, many years. It's the same methods of trickery involving social engineering and forgery. The delivery model have changed over time as technology changed. Criminals have used forged documents through sending letters by telex and facsimiles to trick the victims. Targeted attacks now uses emails that employs forgery and spoofing. Spoofing is an act of disguising a communication source from unknown to a known and trusted source. So hackers can spoof emails, phone numbers, and IP addresses, and more. But really the purpose of spear phishing attacks at the end of the day is to obtain information and get funds wired from the victim. So victims are led to believe they're dealing with a supplier, law firm, service provider, or a contractor. Let's look at who are the targets of spear phishing attacks. Businesses or business victimization, that is, on this fraud trend is probably on the rise. However, you don't see much of that covered in the media unless they are big businesses. As you can see, this example, Twitter was targeted through a spear phishing attack through phone calls. It says the scammers misled certain employees and exploit vulnerable or human vulnerabilities. This could mean many things, but a common method would be to pretend to be an employee who needs a password reset. They would prepare or prepare beforehand by doing research, either through open source or even through the company websites, right? So in this situation, their intended goal was not financial gain, but access to popular accounts for disruption and to spread misinformation. Here's an example of the type of spear phishing that I'm focusing on today. First of all, I think it's a good thing that Prince George had a media release on this issue. I know that some organizations and businesses are shy away from this attention, but in all honesty, it's best that it's out there as it will help to warn others. Not much detail is reported in the media on this, but they did mention that there were 2 separate wire transfers that the city employees made to who they believe was a contractor. And the city reported that their system is secure and the hack was against the contractor. The transfer totaled about $700,000, but the police were able to retrieve just under half of the funds back with the assistance of the financial institutions. So I don't think this would, one should expect this as a rule of thumb. I think they were just lucky. Here's a real case that I wanted to share to highlight spear phishing trend. It is sanitized of certain details for privacy purposes. I know it's a loaded slide, but starting with the background, the victim wired approximately $2 million to a foreign account for an impending transaction. It was discovered after the wire transfers that the scammer had posed as the client's and the client's lawyer through email exchanges. A closer look at the recent emails shows some irregularities. Now, these irregularities were, one, the email addresses were slightly different from the real ones. And two, the body of the emails contained some cut and pastes from previous emails. Even compromised emails, the victim thought they had mitigated the original compromise. However, this information suggests that the suspect may have been monitoring the email account and waited for an opportune time for such attack. So the original compromise was actually 1 year ago. The employee was responsible for authorization and making payments as well. And victim did not verify with client and client's lawyer through other means before their transactions. A simple phone call really, at the end of the day, in this situation, would have mitigate that. So what is the future for spear phishing? I believe traditional methods will persist. So there was an evolution of techniques, right? It went from by post, by phone, by telex, if you're old enough to remember, by facsimile, and by email. So really, what's next? It's deepfake. The future is here. It's just not as prevalent at the moment, but this will change as better software and computing power for deepfakes will be readily available. So deepfake uses AI and machine learning to mimic a person's voice and face. So that's audio and video. Scammers have begun to transition to this new technology. Sorry, on a side note, in researching this section, I was considering pre-recording this presentation using a deepfake app to demonstrate this capability. However, I decided against it because you have to be careful with the apps you download these days, especially when you examine their app permission section. I encourage everyone to do this before they download any apps. There's significant implication to all fraud trends and other criminal offenses in terms of the development and the growth of deepfake technology. Research shown that it can fool some facial recognition software. So there were researchers from the, sorry if I pronounce this incorrectly, the Kwan University of Suwon, South Korea, demonstrated that the APIs from Microsoft and Amazon can be fooled with commonly used deepfake generating methods. All scary stuff. Oops. Sorry about that. Let's take a look at the first type of deepfake, which is audio deepfake. I don't know why my title's not up there, but
Hey, Joe Rogan, it's me, Joe Rogan. Please come save me, man. These artificial intelligence guys have trapped me in a machine. I've never told this story before, but on Thanksgiving weekend, I was doing a set at the Comedy Store, and some idiot ran up on stage. He comes up to me during the middle of my set and tells me that we are in a simulation. The guy was drunk out of his mind. He was so drunk that he couldn't stand up straight. So we all laughed at him and let security escort him out. But now that we have deep fakes and fake voices, I'm starting to believe that we're not far off from simulations after all.
this deepfake audio was created by DESA AI Lab to demonstrate their machine learning AI capabilities. And Joe Rogan is a celebrity who, amongst other things, is well known for his podcasts. This probably gave the engineers a lot of audio samples to work with. To me, these deepfake audios sound very convincing. Here's an example of deepfake audio being used by scammers. In this 2019 article from the Washington Journal, it was reported that a utilities company based out of UK fell prey to a spear phishing attack using deepfake audio. It was mimicking their CEO's voice from their parent company in Germany. The fake CEO fraudsters directed the executive in the UK to send an urgent electronic fund transfer to a supplier in Hungary. The victim was also directed to do it within the hour. The wire was, I believe, 220,000 euros. I know in this situation, it was probably really difficult to question your boss, but honestly, it could have been prevented with a call back to confirm, right? And so fear and the sense of urgency probably played in part in this oversight. As technology improves, incidents of deepfake videos and crime will increase. In this more recent example, a cheerleader's mom was charged in the US with cyber harassment for using deepfake videos on 3 other teens in an attempt to sully the reputation, thinking that it would benefit their daughter somehow. In one deepfake video, the victim appeared to be vaping, and the victim actually received hateful and threatening messages because of it. Since this presentation is focused more on spear phishing, I'm not going to highlight other criminal trends that employ deepfake videos. However, researchers are noting that the implications of this technology are significant. And as law enforcement officer, I tend to agree. And currently, convincing deepfake audio and video require a lot of source information. So knowing this, I would personally attempt to limit and control what goes out on the internet about yourself. So how can businesses and organizations protect themselves from spear phishing? This is not an exhaustive list, and it is looking at prevention on a macro level. The next presentation, which is on phishing, will look at more individual level. So firstly, establish, maintain, and update security protocols. It's a loaded sentence, but essentially this is a cost, right? But it's also an investment. It was reported by the media that Coquitlam City had invested $100,000 to boost their cybersecurity. This is important as hackers exploit vulnerabilities in the organization's hardware software ecosystem. So firewalls, viruses, and malware protection types of devices allowed to connect to work equipment, methods of authentication, password creation, and password change protocols, use of work email protocols, personal versus work use of technology and encryption are just some of the issues to consider as an organization. So you should also establish redundancy and segregation of duties for financial payments. Authorizing and making payments should not be done by one person. Payment should be required dual signatories. Should also establish protocol for multi-step verification for any change in payment information requests. And so in small business setting, you would have payments to suppliers and contractors that allow scammers to exploit during a spear phishing attack. So lastly, establish fraud identifying, managing, and reporting procedures. Again, in a small business situation, this could be simple. What do you do when and if your business email is compromised? You want to think about that and set up a protocol beforehand. Here are some things to watch out for as it relates to spear phishing, spoofing. I mentioned this before. Fraudsters have employed spoofing techniques to make it look like it is coming from legitimate phone number, email address, or website businesses that you have been dealing with, sorry. Pay close attention to minor errors in the email address or website URL. These errors can occur at the header or the body of the email text. So if you hover over the email address on the header, it may reveal the real email address. Also, the body of the email may appear to have parts that are copy and paste. So when in doubt, start a new email by going directly to your contact list. Be suspicious of payment redirect or wire transfer requests to foreign countries. So especially when the business country of origin and payment destination do not match. Lastly, it is important that you stay informed. I know it's not as if you don't have enough to do already trying to run your business and day-to-day tasks, but stay informed on fraud trends through the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center. And here's the link. Stay informed on cybersecurity through Canadian Center for Cybersecurity, and here's the link. I would not stop there. This is probably the bare minimum. There are forums and training opportunities provided by businesses. Actually, in fact, the Canadian Cybersecurity website has information on current trends, what to watch out for, and even training section. And this concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Ben. We really appreciate your time on that. I think it showed a diversity of the different kinds of frauds that can happen to businesses. And so I think it gave an overarching perspective. We also had a few questions about AI. So I think that kind of covered some of it and at least delved into it just a little bit. So people have a bit more understanding of that kind of concept. And now moving forward to a more local perspective and a bit more into some personal type of frauds that we've been seeing. We have our Coquitlam representative, Chris Jones, who is from our economic crime unit. So I invite you to bring some topics to us, and I think it's going to be very interesting.
Hi, everyone. I'm just going to switch screens here. Here we go. So my name is Chris Jones. I'm with Coquitlam RCMP. I've only been here for just under 2 years. I've been in fraud investigations for 8 years. Most of that time has been Burnaby, in the city of Burnaby. So it's been a pleasure working for Coquitlam in Port Coquitlam. So we're going to look at trends that we've been seeing in our local detachments. So the first ones are Bitcoin scams. They're very prevalent since Bitcoin is going through the roof in value. Publisher clearinghouse scams. They're an oldie but a goodie, and they just keep hanging around. Business phishing emails, so it's going to be the spear phishing, but a more local level. I'll show you some examples of some of the emails and what to look out for. And then lastly is how to protect your business from fraudulent activity. In 8 years, my bread and butter is bookkeeper fraud. Businesses get hard with employees who go rogue and take money from the businesses. So Bitcoin, I am no means an expert on Bitcoin. I have a good grasp of it. I'm just going to give you a general overview of what Bitcoin is. If you're not well in computers, it can be a little daunting and trying to understand the scope of what Bitcoin is. But in this case, it's a type of cryptocurrency. They call it a crypto because it's they use a crypto type program to build the Bitcoin. It's used for trading, investments, and purchases. So you can purchase things like Apple and stuff like that with Bitcoin. Cryptocurrency is a unique string of computer code, and it has a value placed on it on the internet. In Canada, though, under the criminal code, we treat it as property. We don't treat it as currency. So if you're to lose Bitcoin and stuff like that, we treat it as a theft, not like a loss of currency, but just a theft of property. So cryptocurrency is popular due to the ability to be partially anonymous. With Bitcoin, it's not fully anonymous, it's partially. So you can trace it. There are ways to do it, but criminals love it because it's really anonymous unless you know what to look for. There's other cryptocurrencies out there that actually have software embedded that mixes up the code and makes it harder to track. So this might be hard to read, but this is from our media. You can Google it if you want for Coquitlam RCMP in regards to this type of Bitcoin scam. So this was a letter. I'm going to just apologize. There are some offensive language in the letter, but you know what? It's best to see the whole thing as it is and not block it out. So residences in Coquitlam have been receiving this letter in the mail. And it's a threatening letter, so they're threatening their lives unless they pay a certain amount of money using this, what is called a QR scan code at the bottom of the page. So this, if you see this, this is a low code for someone's wallet, what they call as a wallet. So it'd be like a wallet you'd have in your back pocket or in your purse, and you hold your Bitcoin in that. So you would scan that at a Bitcoin machine, so like an ATM, and then you would put the money in there. So what's been happening is a bunch of letters have been showing up at people's houses. Some of these letters have had white powder on them, which so far has been not an issue. But in any case, if you ever do receive one of these types of letters, call the RCMP. If it's got white powder on the other side, don't handle it, just leave it, then call the RCMP. But if you receive any letter in sense where they're asking you to pay for something in Bitcoin and threatening, just don't do it, and call us. But this one has been going on for a while, just this year alone. So Publisher Clearinghouse. So like I said, it's an oldie but a goodie. It's a lottery scam in an essence, and it can vary. So it could be Publisher Clearinghouse, it could be other types of lotteries. This crux of all these scams are the victim is required to pay for the taxes/fees in order to obtain winnings. So they always say, you've won $68 million. We have it in an account. We can't touch it because I guess it's like an escrow. So you need to pay the lawyer's fees or taxes in order to obtain the funds, but they can't take it out of the winnings. So in most cases, or pretty much all cases, the victims have never entered the contest or publisher. So that should be a big red flag. If you receive this letter or an email stating this and you've never entered into that, it's 100% a scam. Just delete or throw out the letter. So when victims do get coaxed and they do unfortunately pay, they pay thousands of dollars. The most I've seen in my career was about $6 million over 5 years, which is sad. And it's just She got coaxed in because they actually got a little bit of her personal info, which made it more personal. And that's how they got coaxed in. So words that usually you should look out for in these lottery scams is, number one, don't tell anyone. They always say, keep this a secret, don't tell anyone. So like I said, it's held in trust or an escrow, and you need to pay taxes. And you can't touch the winnings. And it's gotta be quick. You gotta make this decision like today or tomorrow, or it's gone. And grammar and spelling is huge. The majority of these are from other countries where they use software to do the translation, and the translation doesn't work out as best as possible. It's getting better as computers get better and translating software gets better. It's much better than it was 8 years ago, where you could just definitely tell it was somebody who had another language as their first language other than English. So I got this open source off the internet. It's just an example of a publisher clearinghouse. So when you read it, it says you've won $1 million. But it says there's your quicks. So it says your payment will be processed and will leave our office within 5 business days. So you gotta be quick. Please contact this person. If you think you've won, never use the phone number on the letter. Call the Publisher Clearinghouse by Googling Publisher Clearinghouse and go their direct office, if they believe it's in New York City, and call them directly, because that's the best way to verify. So it's do not contact us and avoiding delays. Keep this confidential. So there's your keep it secret, and then go forth. So when you call them, they hook you in. They say, yeah, you've won it, but we need to. It's in the States or somewhere else. You need to pay taxes to get it. So phishing emails. So just like the spear phishing, we've seen a large number of trends for this. Businesses, unfortunately, in Port Coquitlam and Coquitlam have been getting hit with these, where employees don't verify the emails that they receive. So they're looking for e-transfers. It's the big thing these days. They usually targeted businesses within our detachment. And they make it look like it's from the CEO or the boss. And it's usually of an urgent matter with no time delay. They need it now. So this is an example. This is an actual example. I've vetted out the names with the X's. So it's a generic kind of email. So if it just says hi, or it just says, are you available? I need to process a payment of, $3,250 to a vendor today. And you can already see there's an error. It should be capitalized waiting. There's no spacing. For your reply, so I can forward you the details, process the payment, regards. And it's usually like that, regards, sincerely, some sort of vague way of ending it, and the name of the CEO, which they can all find off of a business's website. This bottom section is from the header. So if you right click on the top of the email and click on details, you'll get the full header information. It'll show you where the email has come from and who it's to, but it'll also show you, if you reply, who it's going to go back to. And then this is how they can spoof. So if you look at from, the X is the actual name of the CEO, and then there's the email they sent. So jim@worldclasstutor.com. In this case, World Class Tutor has nothing to do with the business at all. So that should be a red flag. Why am I getting an email from the CEO from an email address like that and not the actual business email that they would be using? But when they reply, it'll go to roygill@yahoo.com. So you can see right there, if it's a legit email, it should go to, so for me, it would be, rcmp-grc.gc.ca would be from, and then the reply would be rcmp-gc.gc.ca. It'd be exactly the same. So it came from me and it goes back to me. So here's another example. I have an outgoing wire transfer request for a vendor payment. Can you handle this today? Kindly advise, regards. Send. So they always use words like that. If you know your boss or your CEO and how they talk, you can probably be a good red flag. If they're a little bit more direct, they'll be direct. But again, you can see here's the email and then the reply to, they don't match at all. So that is the key. If you look at the header, you can see if the to and from matches or not. But in any case, the best advice I can give for any business out there is if you receive an email like this, which this person did, they always contacted the CEO or boss first to verify each of these emails. So this business never lost any funds this way. So they did everything right, which is they received the email, but then they called them because it's a small business. There's only a few employees. They called them or walked down the hall and talked to the CEO to verify. So lottery scam. So the biggest red flag, if you did not enter, how did you win? That's the biggest one. So if you receive something saying you won and you never entered, then just toss it out. Unsolicited winnings should be viewed with skepticism at all times. And then in Canada, all our winnings are tax-free and free of any charges. So that differs from the States, where we know for Canadians, there's a 30% withholding tax, but there are ways to obtain that back. So if you go to Vegas, you win $1,000, you have to pay $300 of that in a withholding tax in Vegas, so you keep the rest. But when you come back to Canada, you can fill out a form and apply to get that 30% back. So there's lots of open source information about how to protect yourself from these winnings, but also about the difference between Canada and the US in regards to winnings and the rules and regulations around it. But with Publisher Clearinghouse in general, it's for North America. The best way to protect yourself is always contact their head office and ask, hey, did I win this? And they will definitely go through and tell you yes or no. So unsolicited emails, again, for e-transfers, always verify. I can't press it enough. Please verify. Just don't take it as it is. Always, question the CEO. Is this right? What's it for? When do you want it? What's the deadline date? And so forth. So you get the email, then go question the CEO. If you're the financial controller or the accountant for the business, that's your responsibility. They may not like it, but that's how you can make sure the business finances are kept in check. Banks will not ask for your banking information through email. You'll get a bank email saying, asking if you want to, we've increased your credit limit, but then it'll say, please log on to your account through your app or through the web. It'll never say, click a link here. They never send a link. It's same with the CRA. They never send a link in their emails. They'll tell you, hey, you got an email or you got notification in your account. Please all log on to the CRA website to read the notification, but they'll never send a link. PayPal, Yahoo, Netflix, Amazon, they'll all never ask to verify your information through email. Yeah, if you get that email, just delete. You can always go to their actual website and just change your password if you have any concerns. But again, those types of businesses online will never ask to update your information through an email. So protecting yourself from your business or protecting your business. Like I said, this is my bread and butter type of investigations we do. We would call them bookkeeper frauds, but it's usually financial controllers or accountants who are left to run the business finances themselves. There's no checks. Nobody checks up on them. Leave it to one person to do it. And they are usually there for a long time before something starts going wrong. They build up that trust, or there's personal issues that occur in their lives and they need money and they start taking it from the business. and then they find out it's pretty easy to take money from the business, and then it kind of snowballs from there to the point that the business is now broke. There's no more money, and then the police are called after that. Best way to do, this day and age, try if you can move away from checks. It's the #1 way money is lost through companies, from employees. They write checks to themselves, or they actually, believe it or not, checks being directed to the company, they'll deposit into their own personal account at ATMs. They don't check them like they used to. Auto deposit or e-transfers are more secure. Auto deposit is the most secure. So if you do an e-transfer and you've set it up for auto deposit, as soon as you send that e-transfer, it goes directly into the account. So there's no middleman, there's no middle email or anything like that. It's just boom, straight into the account. And that's the best, most secure form of sending money these days. Sorry for Bank Canada, but minimize the use of cash. For businesses wise, petty cash thefts are huge, because it's just sitting there and there's no one money and go. Or even with large companies, you have cashiers who find a way around to do fake refunds and take out the cash from the till. So for our detachment, if you have a fraud or you believe you have one, it's most likely already happened. So call the non-emergency line. That's our number there, 604-945-1550. You can attend a community office or the main detachment by City Hall in Coquitlam to report in person if you want to as well. I strongly recommend, if you are going to report to police, please have the original documents with you. So if it was an e-transfer, your bank statements help us immensely for when the transfers were done, especially if you can get the what's called the electronic journal from your financial institution, which shows the transfer, where it came from and where it went to. It'll help us with our investigation. Copies of the emails or mail when you come in to report as well. So if it's email, just print it off. If you can print off the header, print that off and bring it in. Don't forward the email to us. We'll lose all the header information. That's the best advice I can give there. So if you can just open up your email and print off both the body and the header, bring that to us, and then help us out. And with any scam, cease any further communication with them. So if you did become a victim and you did unfortunately take that phone call that says you're in trouble with the CRA and you need to pay Bitcoin or a gaming, was it a gaming gift card, and you did do that, don't communicate anymore. Stop. That's the best advice I can give. I don't want you to lose any more money. I don't want any more victims to lose more money, and just kind of stop the bleeding from there. So final reminder, the police, including RCMP and municipal police forces and the government of Canada, do not take Bitcoin or cryptocurrency as payment. So the CRA, any government institution, City of Coquitlam, City of Port Coquitlam, we don't take Bitcoin as payment. So if you get that phone call, get that email, get that letter saying you have to pay up and you have to do it in Bitcoin, no, don't do it. Utility companies in the province of British Columbia do not accept Bitcoin or cryptocurrency as a payment. So Fortis, BC Hydro, it's either through your financial institution, a check, or I'm not sure if you can go in person anymore, but anyways, it's through financial institution or check that you pay, but not through Bitcoin. And when in doubt, when you get these phone calls, just hang up. If it's legit, we're going to call you back. I'm not offended, and my colleagues as well can probably say we're not offended if we get hung up on or you actually question us on our identity. I'm actually happy when you do that, and I'd be glad to say, call the non-emergency line and then ask for me. and you look it up. I won't tell you the phone number. You look up the non-emerge, you call, ask for me, and then go through that way. And it's a great way to verify. So I'm not offended. I'm sure my colleagues are not offended either if you want to make sure that we are who we are. And with that, thank you. There's my email. If you have any questions, please use it. I have no issues with you using my email. That's it.
Awesome. So thank you, Chris, as well. We really appreciate your perspective locally on that. And I think it gave us a lot of diversity. So I know we've gone a little bit over 1 o'clock, so I appreciate whoever's been here for your lunch period. I am going to move us into a bit of a style of dialogue to try and bring out some of our questions and answers that people have had. So we're going to do that for probably about 10 minutes or so, and then we're going to wrap it up. So if you're able to stay, please hang out and you can listen to some of the questions that people have been asking. So again, we're going to go through our panelists who we've had speak today. So Farid from our Bank of Canada, Constable Chris Jones from the Economic Crime Unit, as well as Corporal Vin No from our E-Division Federal Policing Prevention and Education Unit. So my first question that I have is, we're going to stick, I guess, to different themes, and then we can move out from there. So the first theme was around money and banking, so we're going to kind of start there. The first one was, during the pandemic, how much are you seeing bills and money still being circulated? So I think you kind of alluded to that, Farid, but I don't know if you want to talk to it a bit more.
Sure. We did see a spike in actually withdrawals when it comes to money through the pandemic. Not as many businesses were using or accepting cash because of the misconception that cash is dirtier than cards. But we have seen a big spike of individuals taking money and basically storing it for a rough day. Saying that though, now we're seeing the trend where more and more businesses are starting to get back on board, where they're accepting cash, everything's starting to open up again. So cash is still king when it comes to transactions of $25 and below. Above that, there's a combination of different cards and so on and so forth. But like I said earlier on, cash is still going to be around for many years to come.
Awesome. Thank you for that answer. We also had another question, and it was also about bills. So we know that that new bill is coming out that you had talked about. And from our community's understanding, our POCO town hero, Terry Fox, was nominated. So I guess they're wanting to know, when will we hear more? And are you able to confirm which Canadian is going to be on the bill?
Unfortunately for who it's on the note itself, I can't confirm any of it. We do have the 8 candidates. They're all on our website. But the person who gets to make the last call when it comes to the choosing of the individual will be the finance minister. So it's in his hands at the moment. So hopefully we'll hear more news within the coming few months. But it's all dependent on what's going on in their world, sort of thing. So the 8 candidates are all there. Terry Fox is definitely one of the individuals on the board. So we'll see, hopefully.
Awesome, thank you for that. We also have another question. So this one, I don't know if Vin or Chris might be more apt to answer, but what is the most prevalent online banking fraud?
I'm going to probably say card not present and identity theft. So card not present would be your credit card information got taken from, say, like one of these big hacks that occurred at Target or something like that, where you used to pay and they had your information and credit card information. And then they used that credit card information to make purchases online. I know myself personally it's happened. I noticed the trend when someone started using my credit card information to make Facebook payments. And I'm like, what's this? Because I'm not on Facebook. But because it's a credit card, it's easy to call them up. They cancel your card and then you get reimbursed once they verify it. Unless Vin has something else.
No, I was thinking about identity theft, but that's a really good point on the card.
Awesome, thanks, Ben. So on that line of about doing some online banking and purchases, one question was also, why is online banking encouraged if it's not that safe from hackers?
It's actually pretty safe. The hacking usually occurs due to the lacks we do on our end. So if we do an e-transfer, we make the password 123, or we use the security code, our first name or my kid's first name or something like that. Very simple for them to answer. If they do some digging on you on Facebook, they can probably find out all your kids' names and your names, everything through family history. And that's usually how they get compromised. But for secure transfers via the payment cards, like your debit card is very secured. The tapping is really secured. It's a unique code each and every time you tap. So there's the misnomer there about someone walking by you, grabbing your card information by your little scanner and then using it. Doesn't happen. But yeah, online banking, I do it all the time. The only thing I don't do is use my debit for purchases online, just in case the site gets compromised from their end. I'd rather have my credit card information compromised, not my debit card information compromised. That's it.
So, and then the last question in the banking realm is, why is there no identity theft protection offered free to every Canadian citizen through a bank?
Probably because it's just more of the business. There's protections with your credit card, but for free identity theft is just, I guess it's just not within Canada. Like we don't have the laws for that. But most financial institutions, if you don't give out your PIN, that's the most important. Don't give out your PIN. You can't even give it out to your spouse. That's breaching their contract you have with the financial institution. So if you don't give out your PIN and you get compromised, you'll most likely get reimbursed. But if you give out your PIN and somebody uses that and takes money out of your account, you're not getting reimbursed. I'm sorry, the money's gone. So keep that PIN hidden. Don't let anyone know about it, and you'll always be protected in that sense. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, well, and we'll give the opportunity for more questions to come in at the end if people want to send them in and they weren't answered as we went through. Our time has been going very quickly here, so I will just ask, we have maybe 2 more questions here into our fraud and scams more portion. So I guess one of the main questions now has been, what is a scam versus a fraud? And I don't know if Vin wants to take this one.
Yeah, I mean, scam is a common term, and fraud is also commonly used, but it's pointed more to a legal term in the criminal code. So basically they mean the same.
Okay, thank you so much for that. I think some people, when you're hearing the different terms and they're thrown around, it's good to have that understanding of the differences. So our next question is, where are fraud phone calls coming from? And how do they know our email or phone numbers? Like, how do they know who we are?
I can take that. In terms of knowing where the calls come from, there are organizations that are transnational in nature. So talking about foreign countries, I won't name them, but there are trends right now that are coming from certain locations. There are also transnational organized crime originating from like a certain country, but they do set up their call centers all over the world, right? So it's very fluid, but in terms of these robocalls, these phishing calls that you're talking about, they do have software that generates these calls. And there are, do not call lists that you can go on. But there are legitimate marketing companies that do have these access to these type of marketing, not scams, but they're spams, right? But in any case, the best way to deal with them is to just hang up. If you do have your Android phone, I don't know about iPhone because I don't use it. There is a section where you can identify it as a spam. And as a community of Android users, next time you won't even receive that. It was just a notification that you receive a spam call. That's it.
Thank you. So I guess just to end us off, we're going to end with one last question, and then we will go to our resource page. But I'd like to hear from each speaker. If you just have one thing that you think people should bring home from today's presentation, we'll just let each of you kind of bring that up real quick. So we'll start with Farid.
Just one last note for us, I would just go to our website, thebankofcanada.ca. It has all our resource material, any educational material you need. Everything's absolutely free and we can always send it to you. If you have any questions, we do have regional offices across Canada. So if you go there, they'll definitely direct you to the right area. Thanks again, Candace.
Thanks, Farid. And then how about Vin? Why don't you bring up anything else that you'd like to say just as a last point?
Yeah, so I think if you do experience fraud, I encourage you to report it to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center. As well, check their website regularly on the trends. So then you educate yourself about it, and then you can stop it. But if you happen to be a victim of a fraud, please report it to your local police. I know that there are some stigmatization to victimization of some crimes, such as fraud. Some people feel shame and even depression on it, but you know, don't let that stop you on reporting the police.
Awesome, thanks, Vin. And Chris, how about you? Do you have any last thoughts for us?
When in doubt, just verify. Hang up, don't respond right away, and then go the normal channels to verify the information you received. And then the other most important aspect is don't let a single person run your finances in your business. They may be nice, but you just always have to go on the side of don't trust anyone, especially when it comes to your business and your finances. So make sure all the balances and checks are there. And that way, no one can just take all the funds out of your account and leave you dry. That's it.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. So I think that all of this information is super valuable, and it did quickly go past us. But on this last page, I just want to thank you to all of our panelists for such a great discussion and great topics, and helping to protect our citizens, as well as thank you to our attendees who signed in today and were really invested in these topics. You had some great questions, and hopefully we addressed them all through our presentations today. For more information, again, there's all these great resources that you can reach out to. Some of them were mentioned throughout the presentation, and we've given a complete list here just at the end. For any other unanswered questions, or you want something else covered, or maybe you want to get in touch with one of the presenters, you can also email us through Coquitlam_CPU webinars at rcmp-grc.gc.ca, and we can get information back to you. As well, we also have a feedback form, so you should be getting those links shortly. So if you fill that out, that can help us to know what other topics you are interested in the future, as well as how we did today and how we can make these presentations better. So look for that email and you can fill that out. As to our next webinar, it's coming up really soon. And if you follow our Coquitlam RCMP on social media, there are more details and you can tune in at that point. And we thank you again, and we hope to see you next time. Thank you so much.